I'm well live. Big up Dan Potts for raiding the platform and everyone who tuned in. We've got the legend that is Graham. How you doing, man? It's been a minute.
I'm doing well. I'm doing very well, mate. How are you?
I'm good, man. It's always a pleasure to speak to you. And you're actually someone whose brains I've been keen to pick. I'm sure you've seen it. You know, there's a lot of the Ezes and the Rodrigos and the Gyokeres and the Seskos. But before all of that, I wanted to get your thoughts on the season, man. I know you probably don't want to relive that season, but now that it's done, how are you feeling about it?
I think the fact that the team had a run in the Champions League probably saved the season, but ultimately, at the end of the day, we didn't win nothing again, did we? So ultimately, it was a poor season. You have to say that because the expectations going into the season, DG, were that Arsenal were going to challenge and probably win the Premier League. It never happened, did it? Liverpool came from nowhere and won it, and ultimately, we had a lot of injuries in the season. We had a lot of things to deal with in the season, but we fell short. And I think it now means that going into the next season, the pressure really is on Arteta to deliver next season. That's why I think he said at the end of the season, we were going to go big in the transfer market. We yet to see the evidence, but despite all the links, I don't know how you're feeling about it. Every day there's a link and there's a talk about this player and that player, but as yet the only one that's coming through the door is the goalkeeper for 5 million. So
exactly what Dan said.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, we're still waiting for somebody. I mean, to be honest, it's been great reading all the stories, but until the players are actually in the shirt, we haven't actually signed anyone. So, but they have promised us that this season there's going to be like a summer of change at Arsenal. We're going to go. Yeah, and goosebumps. Yeah. So we're going to go out and get some of these big names. That's why we're being linked with Rodrygo, with Gyokeres, with Sesko, I should say. And Eze, which was the most exciting link for me of the ones we've been linked with. Manduaki one, I nearly fell off the chair when I heard we were linked.
You're not alone.
We need to stop going to Chelsea for their rejects, man. Seriously. Let them keep putting players on 8-year contracts and let them stay there. Yeah. So I this Chelsea link pissed me off, to be honest. But overall, I mean, last season again was unsuccessful because we didn't win any silverware, and that's what Arsenal Football Club is all about, winning silverware. And so I think this year is massive for Arsenal, massive for Arteta, massive to change the way we play. I'm excited to see how, if we do get some of these players in, the next evolution of the team is going to take shape.
You said it there and you touched on it. It's a good segue. I don't know about everyone else, but I look at it in a twofold. I actually don't mind that Arteta is fixated on the way he wants to play and how we play, and that's my way or the highway. I've got no issue with that. But he talks about fine margins a lot, and as a club, and we're never on the right side of that. My issue is he seems to be a bit of a fortune teller. Like he predicts everything the opposition is going to do. 9 times out of 10, that happens to be the case. But the 5 times across the season, which probably shapes if we're going to win a Premier League or like as good as it was beating Real Madrid, get to a Champions League final and potentially win it, I don't think he pivots, and I think to a degree we've become a bit predictable. And I think people are getting in the trap of, personally, I think recruitment's one thing. Like recruitment is central. That's the only way we're going to get to the next level with the Ezes and the Rodrigos and all them kind of links. But I think it's a bit naive to assume, especially in the attack, you just slap Gyokeres or whoever up front or on the left and we're immediately better. Like, how much is it key for Arteta to find ways to break down low blocks, to find different solutions to, I guess, change things going into next season? Because we're kind of predictable.
I think it's massive, absolutely massive. I think when I look back at the last 3 years at Arsenal, I look back to that 22-23 season where we flew out the blocks, playing transitional football, fast breaks, fast attacks, getting Martinelli in behind defences, playing around pressure and basically playing through the middle of teams, right? But one of the problems we've had over the last 2 years since he's gone back to his buzzword, which is control. He wants control, right? With that comes you sacrifice the things that you want to see, what I want to see, and that is fast breaks, transitional play, exciting football, because basically you literally control. You're trying to be in a position, I think, to control the game in possession, and then if you lose the ball, you're in shape to win the ball back. And we are an elite dual-winning team. We're very good at winning the ball and getting the ball up the pitch. Where we lack a bit of savvy for me is actually the way we attack and shot creating actions. We're pretty dumb in a way, the way we shoot around the penalty box. We're not great at taking shots, and when we do, we don't take the right shot, and that's why I think
players either.
Yeah, And that's why I think the link to Eze is really interesting. I mean, I like the player, the way he plays. I think he would offer us so much. Whether he plays wide left, where he plays at wide in the attacking 8 role, he can play, or even if he plays at number 10. I would love to see him in a system where where Rice and Zubamendi are sort of like competing at number 6 position, and really Eze plays as a left 8 with a winger, a touchline winger outside him. And Odegaard a right-sided 8 with Saka on the wing. Yeah, so with Eze, I think what you see at Crystal Palace is exactly what he's all about. The fact that he's not massively quick, but he's able to get past players because he's really brilliant at tight control in tight spaces. And this is what the team lacks, I think, when we're up high. Somebody who can ball carry and go past players in tight spaces and create a shot creating position, and he's not afraid to shoot, and he's a really good shooter. I think that's what the team lacks. So someone like him would be massitive, and I think
players towards him as well. Other players could take advantage of that space.
Absolutely. And the thing is, I read in the last few days, last season, something like 45% of Arsenal's attacks come down the right-hand side. So what teams tend to do is players drift over to that side to try and shut down Saka. So basically, he's always confronted with 3. I know, and Odegaard was playing deep a lot last season, what he would do. So I think the importance, the team is very unbalanced. 45% of our attacks come down the right-hand side. Teams don't bother about our left-hand side because we don't normally go down that side very often, particularly with no overlapping fullback. We play the inverted left-sided defender who shifts inside to help with the build-up. So we haven't got players up high. And I think the problem you've got is in this Arsenal team, we haven't got the players up the pitch quickly enough to basically take advantage of when we win our duels. So basically, teams, and also we don't play well centrally through the middle of the pitch. The 2 players that could address that, So the 2 players that could address that for me, DG, would be Zubamendi, who I think is somebody who's a ball carrier, who's somebody who can, I think, carry the ball through midfield and get it quickly through the centre of the pitch. He's a good passer, good line breaking passer. And someone like Eze, who basically, when he gets on the ball, is somebody who can go past players and get us into quick shooting positions where we could. And also, if we could have a fast centre forward, someone like that, I think that changes the whole dynamics of the team. It really does. We are literally, I think, 3 players away from having a team that I think would be exciting to watch, would be able to deliver on the pitch, and basically would make the most of the fact that we're really good in possession, and good at duel winning. I think this is the key for the team, the next evolution for the team. So I that's what I'd like to see this season, and I think it's really important that he gets these players over the line that they're looking to sign.
That you've kind of been alluding to, even if you get me them exciting players, I'll tell you, you've got to evolve and you've got to put them in situations where it facilitates them, because God forbid if we did get Rodrygo and Eze and Gyokeres and we're still kind of talking about not being penetrative via central areas, then it's clearly tactics. It really is tactics. And I think the key thing you said with there is Eze will drive players towards him, and he's able to get through the middle. I know we're not going to probably get Morgan Rogers or Morgan Gibbs-White, but we've been linked with them 2 today. When I throw in Eze, away from them all being obviously England internationals and British and things like that, they all can kind of do the same things. And that's where I think we're going to get the creativity from. What do you think Eze would mean for Odegaard? Because as you said, Eze can play as an 8. He could probably play on the right if Saka's not there. He could play on the left. Probably play as a false 9 as well, even though I don't think I'd see that. But I'd imagine he's going to play off the left in the 10 primarily, or at least in the short term. Do you think that could be bad news for Odegaard?
I think it could be competition for Odegaard. I do think that. So if Odegaard is not on his game, and basically last season, let's be honest, there were times when he wasn't on his game last season. I think there were extenuating circumstances for that. He was coming back with injuries, and also he's not the same player when Saka's not in the team. I felt that last season watching him. Didn't seem to trust the players who came in to take Saka's position, and obviously without Saka, he didn't seem to be quite as effective or have the confidence in the final third. That's what I felt, and. So I think, in answer to your question, Eze can play. If you look at his statistics in his career, he's played mostly as that attacking left 8. He's played on the left wing, and he's also played as a false 9. But he can also play on the right-hand side. So if Odegaard is not on it, that is an option. And you've got to remember, one of the things I think we need in this team is, I think we need strength in depth. I mean, so basically, players can be rotated. I think last year Arteta flogged too many of the core players to death, and that's why you had players breaking down with injuries, all the time.
Hamstring galore.
Yeah, so I think it's very important that basically, instead of looking at it that players are going to lose their place, when you think about it, when Pep Guardiola was steamrolling to champions of England 3 times in a row, winning 3, a treble winner, he had players, he just rotated. I mean, they weren't dropped, they were just rotated, and it kept them fresh. I think that's a key to this season. If Arsenal are going to compete in the Champions League, going to try and win a domestic cup, because I don't want to see us giving away domestic cups by playing weak sides or weaker sides that basically so we go out in the early rounds. We've got to have strength in depth in the team, and he's be able to rotate certain players. So why can't he, for example, rotate Odegaard and Eze maybe on the right hand side? I know that's not Eze's stronger side, but he could play there. I think I love the way he plays football, Eze. He plays with a smile on his face. He's almost like a version of Bakaya, the way he plays football. I'm not saying he's as talented as Bakaya, but they are very similar in the way they play the game.
Just get on with it.
Yeah, they do. They're great players to watch. But I think, I just feel as though if we are going to compete on all fronts this year, we're going to have players fresher, and we're not going to be able to, if we flog them to death like we did last year. I know part of it, he had a lot of suspensions and the rest of it, and players were having injuries in training, which was disappointing. But we do need players who are going to be able to sort of rotate and to be comfortable. Although they're more comfortable in their best positions, who can play on multiple positions. I do want to see him. I want to see him nail down that. That's why I don't want Madueke. I don't want Madueke. And I think I just want to get this Nwaneri contract sorted out. He, to me, such a talented boy. I mean, I know MLS was the one who came in last year and took the league by storm, Lewis Skelly, and he's a fantastic player. I'm so glad we got that deal done. We also need to make sure that Nwaneri feels appreciated. I don't want to waste 50 million on Madueke. I just basically want to. We've got a talent on that side who can cover for Saka, who could, I think, even play in Odegaard's position. So why are we not thinking like that? Why are we being linked with a Chelsea? I won't say he's a Chelsea reject, but the trouble with Chelsea is they've got so many attacking players now. So they're going to probably want to get rid of one or two, and I'm fed up with us bailing Chelsea out, with their riffraff. So I just think, let Chelsea carry on signing players, let them rot in the club and not play. So let's get Nwaneri sorted out. But I do like the Eze signing. I do think Rodrygo would add something to the team. He's 24. I don't really want to see Gabby go. I don't want to see Gabby go. I can't see why it's all about adding players to make you stronger, not like selling a player and bringing one in. I don't see the value in that, and I know Martinelli's not going to probably like Rodrygo coming in, who's going to be first choice. They do rotate in the Brazilian team. I've noticed that over the last 6 or 7 games that Brazil played. So I just want to see. I think Trossard will be the one for me to go. I think Eze is more of a Trossard-style player, a creator more than a winger. But I think he's far levels above Trossard. And I think Trossard played too many games last season, albeit he did okay. But I think Trossard at 31, 32 now, a bit like Partey. I think that, eventually players come to the end of their shelf life, and basically I think younger talent. I know Eze's 27, but he's 4 or 5 years younger. Zubimendi is in his early 20s. I do think we need the depth. The real depth is the important thing, not just move one player out and move one player in. So for me, if we're going to get Rodriguez, don't sell Martinelli. I understood with the Partey thing, because I would have liked to have kept Thomas Partey. He had a stellar season last year, but he wanted massive wages and he wanted a contract more than what Arsenal were prepared to give him. I don't blame him for that. He was trying to seal the future for his family, but the club obviously didn't want to. They couldn't reach a deal. So ultimately, you have to accept the club's bigger than any player. So move him on, get someone in, move to the next phase. But the difference is with Martinelli, and this is what I want to say to a lot of your subscribers watching today. Martinelli is only 24. I don't think he wants to leave the club. He's talked about he wants to win the Champions League and the Premier League with Arsenal. He doesn't want to go to Saudi at the moment. I know we've had an offer, or there's El Nasser, is it, sniffing around
Something
him
like
with
that, like 70,
something
80
like
million.
that.
We could accept it, but he might not. He might not want to go himself. So it don't make
That's
sense.
the thing. I mean, I spoke to Dan about this. You know, I think you've just done a stream with Dan Potts, and Dan always talks about. And I'm not criticising Dan. I love Dan a bit. He's my favourite Arsenal. Along with you, mate. One of my favourite Arsenal. One of my favourite Arsenal creators. You know, but at the end of the day, he talks about players. If we get 80 million for Martinelli, let's just take it. I mean, you've got to think about what the player wants to do as well. Why would a player at 24 who's in the Brazilian national team or on the brink of sealing down the place
as well?
Why would World Cup coming? Why would he want to go to Saudi? You know, so I think for me, if we bring Rodrygo in, and I'm glad the club have said they want a left winger and a left 8 as well. That's not going to stop them. It's not just going to be one player. Why can't we bring in Eze and Rodrygo? But if it boiled down to moving Martinelli out to get Rodrygo in, I'm not so sure I'm comfortable with that. I've got to be honest with you.
And that's what I think what you've been alluding to is something I've been saying. It's like a twofold. Clearly, last season showed we need depth. You know, Arteta's probably, quite frankly, for the last couple of years, cried about the depth, about we've got one of the smallest squads, whether that's his fault or the club's or everybody's. It's neither here nor there. He did come out recently and said we went into the season knowing we're short. And it's predictable to me. I'm not a physio, that especially around the numerous hamstring injuries we suffered, we was kind of owed that with the amount of games these guys have played for club and country. Equally, we need a stronger 11 in it. It's a bit mad that I'm crying about goals and we've scored 100 goals. But we know when it comes down to it, Saka is the only one we're betting on. And Kai Havertz statistically is probably our top goal scorer throughout the 2 years, excluding Saka, which is testament, I guess, to Kai. It's probably damning on the club, and it raises in question what we're trying to do. As much as I like Kai Havertz, we shouldn't miss him. And with Marino's little run of games up front, it raises in question. I feel my frustration comes from, of course, it's without context, Graham, but we've been talking about a left wing, even down to that season where Martinelli was amazing. We've been waffling about striker. Midfield has been something subjective. And I can appreciate I don't work for the football club, but Thomas Partey, this is someone that we should have had the replacement in already. I think the club's first choice was Zubimendi and Partey. I think that sounds a lot better than Norgard and Zubimendi, but it's neither here nor there. I want to ask you on Martinelli, because I do have this feeling that as much as I like Martinelli, and I'm with you in that, I'm not selling him, I think we need depth. Do you feel he needs to leave Arsenal to reach his full potential? Because I still think with Martinelli, he's at his best when it's kind of like the crazy basketball games and it's on the transitional kind of periods where he can kind of exploit sides. I think the left-hand side, I don't really feel it's set up for anything. Maybe Arteta thinks he doesn't have the personnel, but I think that's more what he does tactically, kind of what you was alluding to. Everything's geared towards Saka, Timber/White, and obviously Odegaard. Like, do you think you'd see the best of Martinelli if he was to leave?
It depends where he would go, of course, and what team he would play for and what system they would play. I think the problem Martinelli has, and I said it earlier, is he doesn't have that bombing fullback on the outside of him. Saka has the luxury. Saka is a far better player than Martinelli, in my opinion. The creative numbers, everything tells you that. And the eye test, I mean, I watch him in the stadium. I literally sit above where he attacks in the first half. He blows you away with his movements, his work rates, etc. So is Gabby Martinelli's, by the way, as well, his work rate. But everything is geared to Saka because we go down that right-hand side. We have Odegaard in the right half space, and we have that little triangle with Timber and White and Odegaard and Saka. And Saka's able to come inside. He's able to go on the outside. He's able to sort of like take his winger on. He gets support, right? And he needs it because basically they funnel everybody across that side. But on the other side, what he's working with, Martinelli, is normally a left-sided 8, Rice, who normally bombs on ahead of him. The days, I think, where Martinelli was really effective, DG, I don't know if you agree with me. If you go back to that season 22-23, was when Gabby Jesus was at the peak of his powers.
Help him out over there.
Because Gabby Jesus would drift out wide, and they would rotate positions, him and Martinelli. Martinelli used to come inside, but Gabby went out on the Gabby Jesus went on the outside. And also, I think a lot of the times, I said earlier again, well, we caught a lot of teams by surprise in 22-23 because they were pushing on to us more than they do now. They literally sit back in their low block. So we were able to, we have players like Partey who are press resistant to be able to sort of get round and play the ball quickly out to Martinelli. And he's best when he's got blades of grass in front of him. As you said, that chaos, that ability to run in behind. We saw a goal in Madrid, the way he scored that goal in Madrid. The game was done and dusted, but he run through the middle, didn't he? And I'll tell you what, there was a game against Liverpool last season at Anfield where him and Trossard started. Trossard started as the false nine. Martinelli started on the left wing. We were losing the game 2-0. Arteta switched it around at half time. And we were better in the second half. Martinelli went to the false nine position and Trossard went out wide left. And I think Martinelli scored a goal with a header early in the second half when we crossed one in. And then he was making some brilliant runs off their centre-backs, but we just weren't playing him through. We just were not. We were turning away from the obvious. He was making runs off the shoulder of centre-backs. He was getting in good positions. His movement was elite, and we just weren't playing it to him. And much the same way as now, I think when he's on that left-hand side, without the overlapping fullback, with a guy in the left half space, Lewis Skelly comes up high, and you've got the left half eight, the left eight ahead of Lewis Skelly. Then you've got Martinelli. Now, I'm not saying Martinelli sometimes doesn't try to get on the outside and get a cross in, but more often than not, if he's not that obvious opening where he can get a cross in, he doubles back and just plays it back to either Lewis Skelly or Rice, so we keep possession. So he's sacrificed a lot of the good things in his game for the team, and that's what I think Arteta asked him to do. So we're not seeing that Martinelli. We're not seeing that Martinelli we know and love, are we? The guy who's able to put the burners on and use his pace. I sometimes think that, is he possibly somebody who could develop into a forward? If we're not going to give him the tools to play so effectively on the left wing, because could he play that role? Well, against Liverpool, I thought he was all right, but
I think he could. I don't think Arteta reckons he's his sort of striker.
No, I don't think so. And I think the fact that Arteta wants like a lamppost centre forward, someone like a Sesko, and he uses Havertz there, that tells you how Arteta really wants the team to play. But I think Martinelli could make a success in a team who play on the break, who play transitional. So someone like Man United, for example, where they used to play under Ten Hag. Yeah, the way Ten Hag used to use Rashford in transition. I could see Martinelli playing that role in a team like that. Let me just say one other thing. I think if you bring Rodrygo in, I know we're talking about he's an elite left winger, and I know Dan loves him, but he'll have the same problem that Martinelli's got. So are we going to then, if we're not going to use Eze in that left 8 space, if we're not going to get a player like Eze and use him in that left half space, I think Rodrygo will still have the same problems that Martinelli's got. So, I think the team sometimes has to change, and I think that's why I think this left attacking 8. I know Declan plays there, but I would like to see us sometimes maybe go double pivot. I don't see why, you couldn't have a double pivot with Declan in a double pivot.
That's why I said Arteta needs to change things and mix and blend.
Or basically Calafiori plays some games where he struck me last season as someone who can bomb on the outside. He scored some goals from some wide left areas, and he was someone who was
a wild ball in the China.
But you can't get Calafiori and Lewis Skelly in the same team. It'll be interesting to see how he solves that dilemma on that left hand side, either with Eze, or if he's going to ask Eze to hold the touchline. I don't see any real benefit in that he can play there, because I think Eze is better. Him. Yeah, I think what you could do is you could maybe play the double pivot, and then maybe Eze. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. I haven't thought about the players how we're going to set up yet, so I'm just talking hypothetically. But Eze, I think, would have to play in a similar sort of role to the way they use him at Palace, and that is somebody who sort of like starts on the left but drifts in field, at someone who attacks from left to right and looks to get in, to get shots away or to combine in and around the penalty box, or can crash the box. That guy he scored in the cup final where he played the ball outright and he ran through and he got on the end, crashed the box, didn't he, get a shot away. So it'd be interesting to see. But I just think Gabby Martinelli is, he divides opinion at Arsenal, and everybody probably judges Rodrygo because he plays at Real Madrid. I'd be interested to see if Rodrygo came in and Martinelli didn't play, whether that would upgrade the left-hand side. You think on paper it does, but you don't truly know until you see him in the Arsenal shirt, do you?
That's why Arteta, for me, as much as it's about bringing in signings, you can bring as many players as you like. Lord knows I want all of them. There's a lot, and he knows it. Like, I'm just an armchair expert. He's a licensed coach. He knows he has to evolve. I think he's adapted by design because we had no choice last season. But I don't think he's evolved. Like you mentioned, the 2022-23 season, great football. The season beyond after that, so 2023-24, we started to be a bit more street smart defensively. Last season, I don't think I learned anything about my team in relation to the other 2 years. What have you made of Rice in the 8? Because I must admit, I've been converted. I still don't think it's the answer, but I'm a lot more comfortable with it than I ever have been.
Yeah, I think so. I think the other thing is a very good point there made by one of your subscribers there, Darth Swaggers. Is it? I'm looking on your screen there. You know, I thought one of the problems we had last year, you talked about the streetwise, and I alluded to that about the control, was the way that Odegaard last year played so deep. And I think there's no reason why Odegaard can't sort of like have
That's where
more freedom.
Zubimendi's now.
Yeah. Odegaard can't
Also,
sort of
anyway,
like drift more across the pitch to the left hand side as that comment says, and it did unlock him at times last year. So, but I did think the problem with him last year was more the fact that he was starting too deep for me. I think the problem is what Arsenal's problem has been in the last year is the way they build up. They build up with we to keep the ball and play around the press. We needed Odegaard to drop deep. We've got Lewis Skelly to drop or Rice to drop in. And basically that's to build the play. So when you actually play around the team's press and you get it up high, you haven't got enough attackers up high. You need that, and I think that's why
we
Zubimendi
don't
could
move
come
it
in.
quick enough
Yeah, we don't move it quick enough, and
or
we have too
penetrate
many
central
people to
areas.
build it. You look at Liverpool. They always have Gravenberch is their number 6, isn't he? Somebody who's press resistant, who
Player.
doesn't he can build up without having somebody drop in, for example. And when they get the ball forward, they get the ball forward quickly, and they've always got plenty of options up high, really options up high, including Salah, obviously, who's the key player to everything. I get that, but they always have so many people up high. I think Arsenal don't get the ball quickly forward enough and get enough players up high quick enough. You know, you always want 5 or 6 attackers, but you need them up high quick. There's no point getting 5
In
or 6
areas they
up
can
high.
hurt the opposition. Like,
Yeah, exactly. And football is a game now played in transition a lot. So yeah, I think Arteta has recognised this year that if you look at the way Arsenal are now, we're really good against the top 6 teams. You know, our record against the likes of Liverpool, Man City.
unbeaten in 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, I nearly
Unheard
said
of for
Tottenham.
us prior to Arteta to a degree in the Emirates era.
I nearly said Tottenham there, but the fact is Tottenham. Well, our record against Tottenham under Arteta is excellent as well. So I can't remember the last time we lost to Chelsea. Record against Liverpool and Man City is exceptional. Where we struggle is against the teams, the mid-table teams, who literally defend in a 5-4-1 or a 4-4-1-1. You know, teams who literally sit. With 5 in defence.
They know our kryptonite. Just stay rigid and compact. We'll move it. We'll huff and puff. You won't get much change out of it.
Yeah, so I think this is what he's trying to do this season. That's why we're being linked with the likes of Eze, Rodgers. I hate to say it, man, Dweke. I think he's basically he wants to change the way we play. I think this year against low blocks, so we're less predictable. So it'll be very interesting to see what he comes up with. One thing I will add to this debate here is once he gets these key players in. If say, for example, the window did deliver what we're hoping. So we, on top of Kepa and Norgard, we delivered Zubimendi, we delivered Eze, and we delivered, say, a Sesko or a Gyokeres, and he got those real elite players in. There'll be no excuses for him this season. He'll literally have. There'll be no excuses. He'll have the top players, and there'll be the expectancy levels will rise massively if he's got those players. So it'll be a big season for Arteta. But we wanted these players, so we've got the money now, and we're going to release a few. I think. Tomiyasu's now contract's been cancelled. We got wages off the books. I think Zinchenko's probably going to move on. We might even move someone like Kibio on. I could see maybe one of possibly Nelson or Vieira. One of them might be moved on.
Both, in my opinion. Well, Vieira is probably a tougher sell.
Yeah. So I think ultimately that will create the money and the reduction in the wages to get the players in. I just hope that basically he makes the right call on the forward. And it's easy to. It's very hard to know which one's going to suit Arsenal. Do you go for the Gyokeres, who basically is the player who's ready now at 27? He's outstanding numbers, not just in the Portuguese league, but in the Champions League last year. I thought he was really good. I've never seen
And did
a
well in the
forward leave.
championship as well.
Yeah, and his record is Championship's not an easy league, is it? But I can remember. I'll tell you when I saw how good he was when he did something to Saliba. I haven't seen many forwards do. He left him for dead on the halfway line, and that showed to me he's got real pace. He scored a fantastic goal in a Champions League match I watched against Leipzig, which showed his quality.
Smart.
And I said that Sesko, I saw a real quality goal by him against Bayern. I was actually in the stadium. I take my son out to see a couple of European games a year, and we always pick a couple of games. So we picked Bayern Munich against Leipzig, and we picked Real Madrid against Atletico last season. So I saw that Sesko goal. What a goal that was from the halfway line. If you haven't seen it, Google it. It's a fantastic. The goalkeeper's halfway out of his goal, admittedly, but it's from the outside of his right foot. He scores from about 30, 40 yards past the keeper. It's an outstanding technique and finish. So I do want a top forward. I do hope we get attacking left 8. And I do think that I wouldn't be against signing Rodrygo, but I don't want to lose Martinelli.
I don't think I can disagree with anything you said. Who's the one for you then between Sesko and Gyokeres? Because for me, I can see how I like Sesko. I can see how Sesko ties in. I think he's got the raw capabilities. I think people are a bit disingenuous when speaking about Sesko. Obviously, there might be a tough bedded in stage, and I think he'd be very good for us. I think in the next year or so, if we were to miss out on him, regardless of where he ends up, people will stop kind of talking nonsense. They'll hold him in high regards. Equally, Gyokeres, his numbers can't be denied. I can't sit here and tell you I believe Arteta needs to deliver and not like Gyokeres, because it's right now. What you see is what you get. He's 27 years of age. I think both would work. Which one would it be for you?
I initially, when I can remember when I discussed this with James on AFTV, I was pivoting towards Gyokeres. I think that Sesko probably fits more the profile of what Arsenal need and the way Arteta plays. But I love a forward like Gyokeres. He's somebody who sniffs around the penalty box. He's somebody who's forever snapping.
Strong and a quick thinker.
Yeah, he's a quick thinker. He snaps at defenders' heels. He's got an eye for goal. He's got pace. I think I'd prefer him.
But that's the thing. It's like both could be. I don't think the club could win. I think there's a risk to getting Sesko. I think there's a risk to getting Gyokeres. You could say, oh, he's only got 13 goals. I told you we shouldn't have bought him. I mean, I don't think Gyokeres will end up like them. But everyone can see like the top goal scorers in Portugal, and when they've left and what they've gone on and done. There's not too many of those players. What I would say to fans is, I know we want to get it right, but if it goes wrong, it goes wrong, innit? Like, we need to go and sign someone else. It didn't work out for Darwin Núñez at Liverpool. They linked with Isaac and they just kept it moving. It don't matter how much due diligence we do. That's it. Which one do you think we'll end up with, Graham?
I think we'll end up with Sesko, to be honest. But I look. Do you know what? I position it as this. I want the forward who wants to play for Arsenal. That's what I want. I don't want someone like Sesko who's coming in basically saying I want a release clause of 70 million or whatever it is, so that he can basically just disappear off if he gets an offer from what he might think is a bigger club. So imagine he's at Arsenal for 2 years. This would be a disastrous thing for Arsenal. We go for him because we see him at 23, 24, whatever age he is, and we see him as a long-term future. He plays with us for 2 years. He has it because I think those numbers are slightly underwhelming at Leipzig. Although 100%. I don't know if you watch him, the way he plays, they play a 4-4-2. So he plays alongside a Belgian forward called Openda.
He's a facilitator. And they had a 4 season anyway.
Absolutely, he was. He was the facilitator. He was somebody who was drifting out into wide areas and trying to get play the balls into his strike partner. So the numbers of people have talked about, I know Dan's mentioned it to me, the numbers are underwhelming. 13 goals last season. But that's because he wasn't really the main target man. If he played for Arsenal, he would get 20 plus goals, no doubt about it. But what I don't want is him seeing Arsenal as a stepping stone to Real Madrid or Barcelona or what he might perceive to be a stronger team than Arsenal. So he gets that release clause in. He has 2 brilliant seasons. And then he basically just leaves. But the one thing about Gyokeres is what I'm hearing, he wants to play for Arsenal. So
Apparently,
the
he's left
fact
his girlfriend for us. He wants everything. If he'll do that to get moved to Arsenal, what would he do to score for us? Be crazy, isn't it?
I'd divorce my wife if I could play for Arsenal.
In the club.
It's not going to happen, obviously. I'm 63 now, so those days are over. but you know what I mean. I'd love to come off
Oh
the
man.
bench though, just for 5 minutes. You know what I mean? Just to play.
Funny.
But just coming back to it, we're laughing around here. But I mean, Gyokeres is to me someone who really wants to play for the team, and all I want is a player who wants to play for Arsenal. He
Facts.
buys into the Arsenal values. It's facts, yeah, exactly. And he wants to play for Arsenal, and that's the most important thing for me. They're both two top strikers. I think Gyokeres is more the here and now. Sesko's got the potential, but overall. We just hope we get one of them. Just imagine we don't get either of them, and then we're chasing after Watkins.
This is what I'm talking about, Graham. That's where I must admit, that's where I'm at now. Like I like a lot about. Go on.
You know, I've been here at Arsenal before. I can remember when we put in 30 million for Higuain, and we ended up getting Giroud. I'm not disrespecting Giroud, but I thought we were getting Higuain. I can remember we bid 40 million and a quid for Luis Suarez. Do you remember that?
Even Thomas Partey, that was a drawn out saga of chicken around the summer, and to save face, we just paid the release clause. I'm at the point where I like Sesko, I like Gyokeres. I must admit, I'm past the point of debating. Like, just get me my striker now, even if that is Ollie Watkins. Even though I wouldn't say he's my first choice, even though I think people downplay him, and I do think it's a tough task for Arteta. I think Arteta has to give and take next season. Like, I look at Onslaught with Salah. I remember Salah doing an interview and he spoke along the lines of, I told the manager, if you kind of alleviate my defensive duties, I'll look after you in the final third. And I think there's a bit of that, because I actually feel being a striker in today's day and age is almost an impossible job. You're like, you have to be a sacrificial lamb. We don't really penetrate central areas. You know, Saka and even to a degree, Martinelli and Rice get a bit more freedom. You got to drop deep. You got to press from the front. You still got to get in the box and score. And as much as I feel if you get 3 chances, you need to bag, it's not really sustainable. Equally, I'm well aware, and like everybody, that the long gone are the days of a striker just standing through the middle. Not even Haaland could do that, or Pep had to change Haaland to a degree in that regard. Do you think it's more important to get like a bagsman striker or a top class left winger? Because I want both, but then I look at what Liverpool have done when they had Firmino, Mane, and Salah either side, and obviously Saka would be our Salah. We need to go find our Mane. Is it more important for 2 great wingers or a great number 9?
For me, I think the most important thing is the striker. I do think what if you look at Arteta's record as manager, he signed more bloody goalkeepers than he signed strikers. I mean, his record, he hasn't had a decent centre forward at Arsenal since he got rid of Aubameyang.
Yeah.
So I think he needs a striker. I think Gabriel Jesus' time at Arsenal is probably, his race is nearly run. Those knee injuries have taken its toll. I think Havertz is okay, but I just think he's not quick. He's not an elite clinical finisher. I think Sesko and Gyokeres are better finishers than Havertz. So I think the striker is the most important thing. We've already got, whatever you think of, we've got 2 really good wingers. I think Saka is obviously top quality. Martinelli, I know he divides opinion, and his output is not at the level of Saka, but he still is a top winger in my book, and he's still only 24, so he could get better. So remember that. So I think the striker is the most important thing. Just going back to what you were saying about Liverpool, that's an interesting point you made, isn't it, about Salah? Because I noticed last year that they tended to leave him up the pitch. He wasn't coming back to do many defensive duties, so they kept him up the pitch to get him quickly in those 1v1 situations against a fullback, you know. And when I watched Saka v Salah in the Premier League over the last 12 months, it's almost like they're playing in 2 different leagues. I mean, whenever Salah plays, he's always put in positions where he can attack the fullback. Yeah, he's always he stays up the pitch and he gets the ball in really good areas. They're very good at getting the ball to him, and he's able to work his magic. With Saka, I know he has to work back and do a lot of defensive jobs for the team, but we don't get the ball forward to Saka quick enough anymore. We don't. He's on the touchline. We don't get him the ball quick enough. One thing I like about Zubimendi, he plays that lovely sort of like diagonal pass from left to right. So he plays on the left-hand side. I think he's someone who could play a pass quickly over the top to Saka when we're attacking, and get him in forward positions quickly, so where he can maybe get a defence far quicker than he does at the moment. So But coming back to your question, I think the important thing is the forward, because I think I could see Saka not only playing on the wing, I can see him playing even at number 10. He's got the ability, Bakaya, to play anywhere he wants on the pitch. I love him when he drifts inside
Such a
sometimes.
player.
And when a player goes on the outside, he's able to drift inside and get shots away, or he sometimes plays through the middle at times, just for a 5-10 minute period. So he can play anywhere. But I do think, I think to win the league, I think even Pep, I know he won the league without a striker, but in the end, he won a treble with a striker. So I think Arsenal haven't had a striker.
Yeah.
They got to the semi-final last year of the Champions League without a striker. But just imagine last year if we'd had a striker. Those chances that fell to us in a game against PG, and he said fell to us against DG. It flashed up there.
Probably would have scored against me, to be fair.
You should have your own football team, son, honestly. But against PSG, if we'd had a key striker in those big moments, that might have changed that semi-final. As good as PSG were. So, and remember, their goalkeeper was outstanding. But ultimately, I think we do need a striker more than a winger.
I'm with you with that, and even just with the PSG thing, like I think us Arsenal fans get a bit romantic about things, in a sense that it was romantic to beat Real Madrid with no striker, with injuries and all of that. But then I remove the positives and the negatives, and I find myself looking at competencies. And in the PSG game, the second leg, let alone the first leg, we had some decent opportunities. You got some goal scorers, goals change games. We don't know what could have been with PSG. And I think to go over to the next level and be a team that doesn't have your manager coming out and saying you were the best team in the Champions League while another team's en route to the final, we need to address all the areas. Like I like Arteta, but sometimes it's not making sense. Like I think some fans have got into this trap of equating a lot of possession, all the shots, field tilt, all these things with domination, and 9 times out of 10 it is. But then the beautiful thing about football is you've got to put the ball in the back of the net more than your opponents. That's the only statistic 9 times out of 10 that matters. So we need to address all areas. I want to ask you about Zubimendi, because obviously he's a 6. And I think people get hung up on positions, just because you're at 8 doesn't mean you won't do 6 things on the pitch and vice versa. But then I look at Declan Rice. Obviously, Declan Rice was known as a 6, different 6, but known as a 6. He's more like involved in all phases. And I think we're going to see that with Zubimendi. But where are you at with Zubimendi, Sanem?
Well, obviously, he's whatever you think. He is a class midfielder. I'll tell you how good he is. The fact is that Liverpool wanted to sign him last year, and also, Real Madrid. I know they didn't go for him in the end, but they've got very good defensive midfielders. He was attracting interest from all across Europe. Let's not forget that. So he's a really classy footballer, and he's really good in the big games. I know he was crap in the games against Man United, but forget that. The
whole team got bulldozed in that game.
Yeah, the whole team were poor. They were down to 10 men in one of the games for about 35 minutes. So forget that. But I noticed when I checked him out in the games against Real Madrid, Barcelona, Atletico, the final against England, when he came off to replace Rodri at half-time, and he helped them win that final against England. He was brilliant in the Nations League final for Spain in the losing game against Portugal. He scored a goal in that game. I do agree with you. He's comfortable, although he'll probably play at number 6, and he's somebody who's got very elite defensive numbers. He's able to drop between the centre halves, and he's able to build the play. But I think he'd be very comfortable up high as well. I think he'd be. I don't think he's going to be. It'd still be, I think, the deepest Arsenal player, midfield player. But I still think he'll be. When we got teams boxed in, I think he'd be comfortable in the left 8 position. I think he'd be comfortable moving high, and he's a really good passer. I mean, he's just a really class footballer. So I'm really happy with the signing. I think, as much as I'd like to kept Thomas Partey as well, Partey probably wouldn't have accepted being back up. So that's another problem that might have been a reason for that deal not to be made. But I think, I always think the football club's bigger than any player, and eventually players come and go, DG. And the fact that we've got a really classy player coming in, I think he is part of the next evolution for Arsenal. I think he's, we don't know fully, as I said, until he's in an Arsenal shirt, but he ticks all the right boxes. He looks a top player. He's in the Spanish national team, or where Rodri could come back and just, take that place back this year. But he's still a really top player. People say he's a lightweight, someone like, think of some of the smaller Arsenal players in the past. People are saying he's another Torreira, and I think it's totally disrespectful. I like Torreira. I thought he was all right, but Zubimendi is a lot better than Torreira. He's got a lot more quality about him. So I think he's a really top player. I think Thomas Partey, 31, 32, the injuries might have taken their toll. You don't know. We could have signed him on for another 2 years and he could be injured again, like he was a lot in the early years, And I think as you're getting older, there's more of a risk of that. This guy is about 26, 27. He's at his peak now. And I think he could be the future of the Arsenal midfield, or defensive midfield anyway. So I think he's a good player. And I think that obviously need to see him in an Arsenal shirt now we play, because you never know fully until you see a player in an Arsenal shirt. But I think he's a top footballer.
I think I'm with you, and one thing I'm keen to see with Zubimendi, on top of what I expect, is actually him, Rice, Odegaard, Saka, I guess Martinelli, and whoever's through the middle, how they lead the press. I think Zubimendi is a player that gets the best out of all the players. I think his games with intelligence, he's very good at reading, his passing range, and I think with him, we kind of touched on Odegaard dropping deep and all of those kind of things. I don't expect one man to change it. Obviously, Arteta needs to tweak stuff, but I think he can actually, help players in that regard. So I'll be keen to see exactly what happens in that regards. Graham.
Yeah, I think another thing I forgot to say actually is that he's very high in take-ons. He's up there in the top 5 of midfielders in Europe's top 5 leagues for take-ons, and he's a defensive midfielder. He's up against attacking midfielders, and his take-ons, although he doesn't take on as many as, say, an attacking midfielder, his record of success in take-ons per 90 is something like nearly 70%.
It's actually good in the air for someone I wouldn't describe.
And also very good at defending. Yeah, that's exactly right. So he can defend the penalty box. He's good in the air for the head out, and he can arrive in the box and get a header in. So he's good in the air. But I think the thing that also impressed me about him is the fact that he's a very good ball carrier, very good on take-ons. You said it yourself. You understand the game really well. It's about moving players around, moving them out of position, and not just about, it's a chessboard football at times. It's not just about overloads. It's about moving players around to create space for other players. And I think he'll give us that.
And that's what I hope, man. But again, it all depends, because midfield, there is a lot of settling in. Like if Eze comes in and we persist with him, what does that mean for Rice and Odegaard and Zubimendi and the relationships around the team? I'll be keen to see it, but I do think we need it. And I do think, we focus a lot on the attack going into this summer market. Obviously, defense, we need a bit of rejigging, but the midfield is the engine room. And kind of what you said earlier, I want to see us on a more consistent basis penetrating central areas. It feels quite un-Arsenal-like, actually, that really it's just dual winners and things like that. I'm not seeing enough 1-2s and that healthy randomness as to at base level why we all love football. So we'll have to see. I wanted to, before I let you get out of it, Graham, I wanted to go over a couple of things. Obviously, we've touched on Tomiyasu. His contract's been cancelled, and I know he's still out for 5 months and he's 26. But he surely is going to end up somewhere in Europe on a free. Was it the best decision to rip up his deal?
I think from what I'm reading, it was the decision was taken by mutual consent. He still hasn't got over that injury, has he? And I think he had probably another year left on his Arsenal contract.
Yeah.
So obviously Arsenal was sort of like looking at it thinking he's probably not going to be even, there's the chance that he won't even play any more football for us. So I think we can't underestimate, or we don't know, how bad the injury is, and we don't know how long he's going to be out. But clearly Arsenal were worried about the fact that it wasn't, he'd been out a long time. They must have looked at it and thought that he wasn't going to be coming back quickly from this injury. So, I mean, we don't know, to be honest, if he is fully going to play football again. We hope he will. I think he's going to be a massive miss for Arsenal. The sad thing about it is, I think, had he been fit last season, I think it would have stopped people like White and the players we had injured at the back. They wouldn't have played so many football games. He could have covered in various positions, and they would have been fitter and maybe not have injuries. I think what you had with him, he could play a number of defensive positions, and he was just a really good guy. And there was one, we talked about Salah earlier. I can remember one game when we beat
Liverpool.
He played left back, and that was a tactical decision by Arteta to play him left back, because Salah would like to come in onto his left foot, right? So he played right-footed right back at left back. So it was Tomiyasu, every time Salah tried to come inside, would tackle him with his right foot. So I think he was a really good footballer. I think the crowd loved him. When he played his first game, I think it was Norwich City, when we started that season really poorly, and then we won that game 1-0. That was his first game. The crowd immediately took to him, and I think the fans loved him. Really nice guy. I hope he's going to play football again. I think if he gets fit, some top quality team will come in and sign him, no doubt about it. He's a very good footballer. Just sad that he's had the injury. Yeah, and I liked him. I really did like him. He got Arsenal. Do you remember that incident on the touchline with he endeared himself to the fans when Richarlison was Tottenham game, where he just basically pushed him away, didn't he? He reckoned he got what the London Derby was about, didn't he? The North London Derby.
He just does it in a humble way as well. Like, he's not a shithouser, really.
Nah,
it's horrible.
Nah. Yeah. So
always happens to nice guys.
Yeah. He was at Arsenal 3 or 4 years. We saw some quality there, but he's basically, at the end of the day, his players suffer too much from injury, and it's just sad to see him go. But just to say that he's been released, but the decision was taken by mutual consent. It's not like Arsenal. Obviously, they must have discussed it, and I think he needs probably to get fit. So maybe he's going to go back to Japan, get the right medical help to get fit again and get over that injury, so he can then maybe attempt to play football again. So I wish him really well.
It's an interesting one because I think he technically had a year on his deal. I know Arteta loves him, and and despite all the injuries, he clearly loves him. So it's got to be a heavy decision. I don't know if Bart's come in and said, you know what, we could renew his deal, but he might get injured again. Bearing in mind he's got five months left on his contract. Should we just pull the plug now? And obviously there's probably a degree from Tomiyasu to want to get that done. So it'd be interesting. It's one way you would love to hear from Arteta and Berta and actually Tomiyasu as to how we got here. It just sucks. But at 26 years of age, you want to see him get to playing some football and whatnot. We've gone over Gyokeres, we've gone over Sesko. I mean, I'm going to ask you that last time. Any hope for Rodrygo?
Do I think the Rodrygo? The only thing you got to remember with Rodrygo is I think what we've learned over the last 24 hours. I haven't been watching a lot of this World Club football tournament. Looks like Chelsea will get to the final without playing anyone. That's the one thing. But the one thing that came out of it was that Alonso hasn't been playing. He only wants to play with 2 forwards now. So Vinicius Junior and Mbappe look like being the main 2 up front. So there's going to be no place for Rodrygo, and I think he plays almost like a 3-5-2 now. What he's been playing with since he's come in at Real, and I think we heard yesterday or in the last 48 hours that Real Madrid are now open for Rodrygo to leave. So I think with that, although Arsenal have been heavily linked, I think other clubs will be interested as well. So even if Arsenal want him, it's not guaranteed that he's going to sign for Arsenal. There could be another top club come in for him, and he'd have his options, wouldn't he? So the other player we haven't talked about, who we've been linked with, obviously, is that Mosquera. Have I said it correctly? I know.
Yeah, the Valencia lad.
Yeah, and I think going back to Tommy, the fact that the situation with Tommy's injuries, the fact that we had, the fact that Timber had to play the whole of last season coming back from a big injury, and he did really well to play the season last year the way he did. The fact that White struggled with injury, and the fact that Gabriel got injured during the season. And I know Kivior is someone who could play backup to Gabriel, but the thing about Mosquera is he's a defensive backup who can not only play both centre-back positions, he can also play at full-back. He's 2-footed as well, same as Tomiyasu. So maybe that's one of the reasons why the club have moved to get him, not only as cover for centre-back positions, the fact he can cover maybe he's an all-round utility defender. So that could be one of the reasons. So, but ultimately, we are 2 weeks away now, aren't we, to the club start the pre-season tour?
Getting close to it, man.
Yeah, I was really hoping that we'd get some forwards or some signings in the door. Maybe we will before we go on tour. I think they were going to announce the Zubimendi thing today, but they cancelled it. I think it's still on for next week. They're going to do like a Zuba Monday, I think. I can't take credit for that. I read that on social media.
Good play on words, man.
Zuba Monday announced the deal. So I think we will. They're probably going to announce the Norgard thing officially, announce the Zubimendi thing early next week, and then they need to really pivot towards getting these 4 players sorted out,
especially a striker.
Yeah, a striker is the key. That's the most important thing, and it's one of, for me, Gyokeres or Sesko. And if the dream signing for me would be Eze. I just love the player. And remember, it would be like him coming back to. It'd be redemption for him. Because
Returning home.
he got let go by Arsenal when he was a young lad. He was in tears apparently. Made his name at QPR. Has been outstanding for Crystal Palace over the last 2 years. It was the reason they won the FA Cup last year. I think he scored in the last 3 rounds: quarter-final, semi-final, and final. If we could get Rodrygo in as well, and not let Martinelli go, it would be perfect, wouldn't it? If we had a window of Kepa, backup keeper, Mosquera to cover the defensive positions, Norgard, Zubamendi, Eze, Rodrygo, and Sesko or Gyokeres, I'll be in dreamland.
And it'll be the first window, Graham, that, like, whether I like the players or not, I never get the vibe that we address all areas. But if you go and get me a goalie, do what you need to do defensively, do what you need to do in midfield, on the left and up front, Bob's your uncle. I'm happy in it, because at least I can say you put your best foot forward, because regardless of if we do all the business or none of the business, we need to have a parade in Islington in some capacity in 2026. Like, we've had 3 golden years. I know it hasn't all gone to plan, but when it's all said and done, we haven't seized that and created history. And we need to. Liverpool have got a new manager. They went and won the Prem. I think we need to go into it believing we can genuinely win the Prem, try and bring the domestic cups home. And I'd say the Champions League is probably where I'm a bit more hopeful than anything. But maybe it's a good omen. Quarterfinals under Arteta, semi-finals. Maybe we can do one better. I don't know, though, man. I really don't know. Graham, this has been fantastic.
Yeah, I hope so, because just before we go, I mean, if you look at it, Liverpool they've gone early with their business, haven't they? They've spent over 200 million, spent 100 million on verts. Man City have been spending money pretty much since January. I mean, that team's going to be redeveloped next season. They're going to come again. Chelsea buy anybody who's walking past the stadium, and then time down to an 8-year deal. I mean, they're going to have 2 dressing rooms. They're going to have sort of 2 buses, 2 dressing rooms. So
probably need another hotel with the amount of players they got.
The thing is with Chelsea, if they can buy a player, if it doesn't work, they then just buy someone else, don't they? And so, you know, they just sell a hotel, don't they? Or sell a women's football. I don't know how to get away with it.
To themselves, crooks.
But yeah, so look, the thing is, I think Chelsea, joking about Chelsea are getting stronger, and I think they will be up there challenging next year. I do think that. Liverpool and Man City are still massive teams who are improving with their signings. So we have to get the business right to be able to go again and deliver the title. I think it's massive for Arteta this season. He has to do it this year, mate. Honestly, he has to do it.
And if he doesn't, I don't know what needs to happen. I don't necessarily think he'll get sacked if we have another season in terms of where we finished in the cups and everything in its entirety. But I hope it all goes to plan. I hope there's no injuries. We win the league. We win everything, as I'm sure you and everyone in the chat. Graham, where can people find you, man? We need to do this more often. This has been amazing.
Yeah. We should do it once a month, mate. I love talking to you. And love the content you do. So, yeah, we'll have to schedule it once a month. I think that'd be good during the season.
No, definitely.
You know your tactics as well as I do, DG.
Not as good as you, man.
We can do a monthly tactical review during the season and what we think.
I'm on that.
Yeah, I'll be up for that, mate. That'll be no problem.
Where can people find you in terms of socials? We know you're on AFTV, but like, where can they find you if they want to follow you?
I'm not massively on YouTube, to be honest with you. Obviously I work a lot. I've still got my job. Just Graham_Brooks1, which is on. I'm on X and I'm on Instagram. So, I'm always commenting on Arsenal. My whole X account is about Arsenal.
It's about Arsenal, yeah.
Yeah. My life is about Arsenal. I've loved this club for about 55 years. I'm lucky, really, because I've seen us win 6 league titles since I've been on the planet. I was born, DG, 6 months after Tottenham won their last league title. So I've never seen, I always joke that I'll probably get off the planet before they win the next league title. So,
I'm as well.
I feel sorry for the younger Arsenal fans who haven't seen Arsenal win that league. I want, even my son, he's never seen Arsenal win the league. He's seen us win a few FA Cups, but he's desperate for us to win the league. I really would like to see that. Yeah, I'd love to see that. So yeah, look, I'll hold you to that. You message me once a month. We do a tactical thing. We discuss it, and we put our opinions on WhatsApp to each other, and then we do a little show where we look at tactically what Arsenal have done in this month. You up for that?
I'm up for that, man. I'm sure the subscribers will be up for that. We'll get that done, Graham, man. We'll get that done, man.
Right. Yeah, you can hold me. You can hold me. You can tie me to the chair, mate. So, but great talking to you. I love your smile. Great content you do. Keep
Appreciate you,
doing
man.
it, and hopefully we'll catch up soon.
Definitely catch up soon, man. See you in August, man. And people, follow Graham. He just gave you the drop of where to go. Hit the like button, comment, and subscribe. Let's let Graham enjoy his afternoon. Thank you very much for blessing us, Graham, man.
It's been a pleasure, mate. Oh, a real pleasure.
All right. And on that note, people, let us know your thoughts in the comments. I'm sure you've agreed, disagreed, or got some points that we might not have covered or viewpoints. Like, comment, and subscribe. We're out.
You always just like, I think